Making their way to the ring, talking about the world of professional wrestling, the team of Jeff Martin and the trendsetter Bryan Burga, the Jersey Wrecking Crew.
As the summer starts winding down, wrestling news just keeps getting hotter and hotter. What is going on? I am Jeff Martin alongside my tag team partner, the trendsetter Bryan Burga. We are the Jersey Wrecking Crew. I like that Larry Zbyszko thing. Is that new?
Yeah, he stole it from me, so I'm using it now.
Well, we are the Jersey Wrecking Crew, and this is another episode of the HSP podcast.
That's all I got. That's all I had.
High Spot Podcast is back with you. Got a great show for you today. We got Andrew Zarian from Matman Podcast breaking all the news. He's such a newsbreaker, that guy. He joins us on the show. We'll talk a little Adam Cole, talk a little SummerSlam, do some rapid fire questions with him. Thank him for his time and some announcements too. You'll find out in our interview, and something about SummerSlam 2 and pools and babes. Get ready, man. We're going to break some news for you in that interview. Plus, we'll get to talk about Keith Lee. Follow us on all our social media at HighSpot Podcast. The YouTube channel, youtube.com/HighSpot Podcast. Subscribe, hit that notification bell. You don't want to miss out anything with HSP on the HSP Podcast Network. Jersey Wrecking Crew
In the house.
Yeah. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Dude, it's starting to hit me. The summer is almost over, but as we're building up towards SummerSlam, what a way to end summer with a bang, right? With all these things we have to look forward to for SummerSlam towards the end of Labor Day, when you have All Out to talk about as well, and for us to break down the card of what potentially might be a really historic moment. Now, it's been historic for AEW since they started. This could be another historic moment for them as well. But, dude, it's like, honestly, I can't believe this time last year where we were and how we were dealing with a lot of things, whether it be COVID or been dealing with just personal issues of where we want to go and what direction we want to go in. Now we're here. It's been a dream, man. I'm exhausted.
Listen,
I'm tired beyond belief, as I've always mentioned before. But you know what? It's a good kind of time.
I have a request. Please don't shut anything down until after Labor Day, all right? Please,
Yes.
That is the request. I feel like Bobby the Brain Heenan, when the Real World's champion Ric Flair was going to come into studio, we had to clean everything up. We had to make sure everything was right, because Andrew Zarian will be here in just a few minutes. Everything has to be right.
It has to be right.
If he was going to wear a Matman wrestling shirt, damn it, so are we. We're going to wear our High Spot Podcast, the OG, the old ones, the retro ones, the original logo. God,
Never goes out of style.
never. It's amazing. HSP.
Oh, yeah. High Spot Podcast,
trendsetter.
baby.
Yeah, check out those pecs.
Well, that's more of abdominals, but pecs are up here. But thanks, man. I appreciate it. So, dude, honestly, how have you been dealing with all this content we've been seeing as of late with what Impact's doing AEW, WWE, and where they're going in terms of the direction leading to SummerSlam? I mean,
Well, you're right.
Where do you start, man?
We're going to SummerSlam. Looking forward to that. Going to talk about that as well. But I got to talk about this. And that's something that has a lot of people were talking about. A lot of people had their own theories. There was another conspiracy theory, and that was, what the heck was up with Keith Lee? And a lot of people were talking about how, hey, he's not being pushed. Vince McMahon doesn't like his wrestling style. He is not being used. He's in catering and whatnot. We kind of found out today what happened this week with Keith Lee. He opened up about contracting COVID and a medical health scare, and some serious stuff, dude. I mean, he went on YouTube, talked about his situation, cleared the air. And I just think a lot of people like speculating. A lot of people want to give their own opinion without hearing facts. And Keith Lee basically said that he contracted COVID-19, had some blood work done, didn't look too good, could have been life-threatening. Yeah, the dude couldn't even work out. All he could do was take walks. His life was in danger. And Mia Yim really was so supportive, took care of him, even took some personal time and personal goals she put aside to take care of Keith Lee. And we're glad he's doing better. We've seen him now come back to Raw. And I think we need to give it a little bit more time to see what exactly his path is going to be. But the first and foremost trendsetter is thank goodness that he's okay. I mean, this is some really scary stuff that you read that happened with him.
It definitely is. As more of the news came out and he talked about it too, you became to realize that as much as we were probably everyone was saying, he's not in WWE's plans, that he's basically he spent his time in terms of what WWE feels they want to do with him creatively, and realizing this was such more than a serious issue, as a health issue like COVID-19 and what he had to deal with. Ultimately, all I can say is I'm just happy he's healthy now. He's feeling back to normal. It's good to see him back in the ring too. And I think, like you said, we should have to take a step back sometimes, because we worry so much about where people are coming, where they're going, and not really paying attention to where they've been. Like a too philosophical, too deep here, though. But at the same time, it is a business that we enjoy. We love critiquing. It's always playing, Monday Night Quarterback, where you're always kind of speculating where things are going, why people aren't on TV where you think they should be, and then realizing it was a serious situation like this. So all I can say right now is I'm happy Keith Lee's feeling healthy. He's back in the ring, and we'll see where it goes from here.
All right, trendsetter, we got Andrew Zarian joining us right now. He is, of course, the Met Men Wrestling Podcast. We got so much to talk about with one only Andrew Zarian, breaking all the news right now on social media, and kudos to him. So we're going to talk about SummerSlam, a certain pool party, but again, just catching up on old times with a good friend of the show, Andrew Zarian. All right, trendsetter, got a great guest lined up.
You're being modest.
Oh, man. He is the man right now, actually. So it's good that he made time for us today. And that is from the Met Men Podcast, Mr. Andrew Zarian. And, of course, he co-hosts that, with his good friend Rich. And they are good friends of the show. Let's welcome him in, man. What's up, Andrew? How you doing?
Dude, I've known you guys for God knows how many years. Since 2017, I think I've known you guys. And this is the first time that we're doing a show.
Well, that just proves how busy we've all been, because we've all been trying to collaborate, and we've all just have been on different schedules, though. But we have been trying,
but not
as, lack of effort.
Not as busy as this dude, and he set some time apart for us to come on here. What's going on, man? How's everything? Busy?
Dude, tell me about it. Yeah,
think
so many ways.
End of the year
in one exhale.
Oh, all right, man, so, it's been a wild year, man. It's been a wild couple months, I should say. Probably since the beginning of the summer, it's been nonstop.
And it doesn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon for you, though. So
no, it's not.
To get ready for the long haul there, buddy.
Yeah, and a huge congratulations to all your success, though, on the pod as well, too. We listened to it, big fans of it. So let's get down to it, man. But first and foremost, want to announce, too, that we will be in Las Vegas, and we are going to support Andrew Zarian and, of course, the Met Men Podcast, as they will be at Sapphire's poolside Friday, August 20th. Looking forward to that, man. Talk about that. Talk about the events.
Yeah, man. So I think if you've been listening to any of the shows that I've done over the last 10 years, you guys know that I have a pretty deep tie-in with Sapphire. I've been somewhat working for them on some caliber for like 10 years. So I got a call from them. They're like, hey, listen, what do you know about wrestling? I was like, oh, you don't know I do this wrestling? They had no idea, by the way. They had the Vegas crew had no clue what I do. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, look, this is what I do. And they're like, holy crap. Okay. Yeah. Well, why don't we book RVD for you and you come and you do a show? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So actually, you're the first show that I'm announcing this on. Rob Van Dam will be there. Will be our special guest host for that party. Yeah. So you guys will obviously get to meet him and hang out with us. And obviously you guys will come on the show too and do some stuff. But, it's all crazy. I mean, right now, this is all nutty. Thanks to Sapphire, obviously, they're flying me out there and they're sending me to SummerSlam. So that's a nice little gift here.
I saw your buddy Rich post that he can't wait to sit next to you on the flight, but they don't want you taped up on the seat.
Yeah,
just
don't get a little wild.
Yeah, don't do anything crazy there. And
like swinging at flight attendants. No. Well, Spirit. I'm flying Spirit, so that's the only way you get on.
Oh yeah,
you got to swing at a flight attendant to get a seat.
That's true. That is very true.
Yeah, priority boarding. That's how you get on.
That's the mandate. Listen, I was listening to your show when you came back from Jamaica. First and foremost, dude, like you go to Jamaica and you can't even take a vacation because,
dude, come on, just relax.
Because he said he's on vacation, Jamaica, right? And all this news breaks, and then I see this guy. I'm wondering to myself, is Andrew going to host anything?
And you know what? Okay, so I swore to my wife, I'm like, listen, she's like, the wrestling stuff has been, she's like the number one cheerleader for me too. She's so like excited that this is going on and everything. She's very supportive, helps me out with everything. She's like, listen, but can we take like, give me 3 days out of the 5. Just give me 3 days where like there's no wrestling. I was like, you got it. I'm like, I don't anticipate talking about anything. Yeah, I'll put out a couple stupid tweets and comment, but I'm not going to do any kind of coverage. I was on the phone calling people on Tuesday. I got there. When did I get there? I got there
on Monday, didn't you?
I got there. No, I got there Saturday. Saturday was okay,
Okay.
but things were rumbling. No, Friday. What day did I get there? Yeah, Saturday I got there. So Saturday morning, the layoffs happened, right? People got fired. So immediately Saturday, I was doing tweeting. Sunday, I took off. And then the whole week was just bombardment of people telling me stuff. And then I'm confirming. And then, you know, I think a lot of people don't know, like a lot of us, we confirm the stories within each other.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not going to name names, but let's say, Rich has a big story and Rich works for a website that's miteful.com. Let's just throw that out there. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
And Rich would send me a DM. He's like, hey, listen, have you heard this? This is what I've heard. And there's like this trust thing where like, I'm not going to run with the story. You know what I mean? Like we're working on this together. And I got like 80 of those. So Friday morning, I got a bunch of messages from people saying like, hey, listen, have you heard about any kind of layoffs coming? I know that you were the one that kind of said this was happening. I'm like, oh, I was told more was coming. I thought it was going to be NXT UK, but it turned out to be a big shitstorm at NXT. Yeah. With with the firings, but I got tremendous amount of rest. I was stoned the entire trip, and I was laying on the beach. I mean, I was living life, just tweeting about wrestling on the beach with my wife. It was paradise. It was
some wives don't
everything
even
I wanted.
Some wives don't even give you 3 out of 5. It has to be 5 out of 5. So your wife is a saint.
Yeah, but she got none. She got 0.
Yeah, exactly. So that promise didn't last very long, especially.
Yeah, I know.
Still, an understanding woman.
Andrew, I mean, we can, beat stuff to death here. You've probably made the rounds and you've talked about it. So we're going to change it up here, and we want your opinion. We don't want you to stress and say, oh, I gotta put on a show for these guys. We just want you got honest opinion on this, because we've talked about the firings for so long, and that's it is what it is. But the main topic still remains that after SummerSlam, you got Adam Cole, who has been a big topic, what he wants to do with his future. And we're going to say, is Adam Cole bye-bye, right? In your opinion, if you had to guess, what do you think is a likely scenario for Adam Cole?
If I were to guess, I would say that he's staying.
Okay. He's staying.
That is what I would say.
I told Brian here a lot that, you know what, the way that his ties with Triple H and Sean are, he's loyal, but yet would the company be loyal to him? They can make him all these promises and everything, and they can give him a nice deal, sweet deal. But at the end of the day, he's got to decide whether to believe Vince McMahon, whether to believe, anybody in that company. Because right now, it doesn't seem like Sean and Triple H have that much stroke in NXT.
Well, I'll put it the way it was said to me. Have they ever done wrong by Adam Cole? And
No.
the answer is no. He's always been in a great position. Even when he entered the company, he entered in a really good position. I'm trying to think what the dumbest feud was that he had. It was probably that Velveteen match, right?
Yeah.
But again, that wasn't anybody's fault. It was just the timing of it. He truly trusts Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Those guys have really been a driving force behind him. The fact that he had a meeting with Vince on Friday says a lot. The fact that Vince took the time to sit there and work on this. We've all heard the rumors of the $1 million contract. I don't know if that's true or not. I never ask about money.
Mm-hmm.
Days reporting it. So I would say, yeah, that's a reality. That could be possible. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money on your downside to turn down with uncertainty with another company that's, 2 years in, and you don't know how you're going to be positioned with major stars showing up over the next couple of weeks. So is it the time for him to go now? I don't think so. I really don't. However, listen, he could decide, he wants to be with Britt Baker, and that's enough of a reason for him to say I'm going to AEW. I think he's going to stay though. There is a void right now with that internet darling character for WWE. Daniel Bryan's no longer there. CM Punk's no longer there. Kofi's star power has kind of fizzled at this point. So they really want that, underdog, up and coming, big following, sub wrestling culture following guy to be positioned on their TV. And they really don't have that right now. So he would definitely fit in 100%. Now, the size thing is a problem always, because look at who their champions are and who their champions are going to be going forward. I think the days of having a Daniel Bryan as your world champion long term are gone in that company. It's just not going to happen. And it didn't happen with Daniel Bryan, right? He wants Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree in terms that, even Jeff mentioned too, he thinks he's going to resign. I personally don't think that's the best decision for him, not because of, he's not going to be utilized well in AEW or let's say Impact or something like that, or goes back to New Japan or Ring of Honor. I just think right now in terms of the value, he's been the face of a quote unquote developmental company. So if you're the face of that company, so if you're promised to go on the main roster and do something, you just talked about they're missing a Daniel Bryan. When I look at Adam Cole, I don't see a Daniel Bryan. I don't see a guy who people want to go behind and cheer, rah, rah, rah. I see in Adam Cole as people who want to pay to see him get his ass kicked because he's just that good as a heel, as opposed to, they did the experiment with Seth Rollins. It's clear to see Seth Rollins is a lot better to boo him and a lot funner to boo him than it is to cheer for him because you don't have that connection as you would Shawn Michaels, which is his idol. So I don't know in terms of what they've done so far and how the rumors have come out where he knew he was done. They didn't realize his contract was up. He decided to stay. I mean, it looks bad on WWE from a business standpoint. I just don't know what more value he could offer the main roster, considering the fact that they don't value him enough on NXT, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And also, you brought up Seth Rollins. Here's the thing about Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is 6'1", 220.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Adam Cole is 5'9", $180, $190, right?
Yeah.
That plays a big part in this. That really does. I mean, I know he's billed as 6 foot, but it's not. This is not 6 foot. Listen. He's 32 years old. He has to make a determination on where he wants to be in his late to mid 30s. And if he stays with WWE, he'll be a very wealthy 40-year-old by that point.
Yeah.
He's wealthy anyway. Listen, he's not getting paid chump change anyway, but this is a life changer deal for $1 million that probably has an upside that continues to grow like every other sports contract. I don't know what the right thing for him is in looking at AEW right now. I think, you know what? Let me just step back. I think this whole situation with his contract is 6 months too early.
Oh, you know what, Andrew? I thought that if he had made the move in 6 months ago, it would have been
6 months too late. Yeah.
Yeah, because now you have Punk and Daniel Bryan. He's going to be a small fish in a pond that's getting bigger.
Much
in
bigger.
AEW, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I thought too that the timing of it would lead more for him to stay. Now, again, how much stroke does Shawn and Triple H have, because they've basically had no say in the last cuts, supposedly, right? They had no say in who got cut beforehand. But now, talking about something that you mentioned on your show, you talked about two words that I never thought we'd hear in wrestling. You hear it in sports, but you talk about analytics and algorithms.
Yes.
You're talking about, right? I hear it in baseball all the time. It's getting into the NFL. It's really so freaking annoying to me because I am an old-fashioned eye test guy, right? So now you're talking about algorithms, analytics, and talking about characters and whether they can make money or not. Are we getting
analytical talent assessment?
Yes,
that is what the word was that I was told. Yeah. Analytical talent assessment.
Yeah. So do you think now we're in an era where that's going to be used now more going forward?
Oh yeah, especially with the really high paid guys. Mm-hmm. They need to, and by the way, they need to assess this, right? Because wrestlers never got, unless you're like John Cena or Hulk Hogan or top guys like that. They don't get paid like sport, NFL athletes, NBA athletes. They get paid well, but not like that. They're not doing $30-40 million deal contracts. Now, however, guys like Roman Reigns, they're making some real good money. Brock Lesnar making some real deal money. John Cena, Seth Rollins, all these guys. They need to figure out, okay, we're paying Braun Strowman $1 million a year. Let's take that and factor in his merch sales, gate, overall internet perception, futures, all this stuff. They equate into your value. And I think in the case of Braun, they realize okay, we're paying him too much money. Bray Wyatt, however, very different scenario. And he was a top merch seller. He was a draw. He was a quarter-hour draw. So his release is something a little different. And I didn't really dive in, considering I knew that there were some health issues and things like that. I think his situation is a little bit different. I do not believe under any circumstance that this was a purely budgetary reason. You don't invest so much money into a look, into a gimmick, and then cut them like that. It's not seen, really. I don't think the company's ever done that before with anybody that they've invested so much money and effort into creating the look, and then just to be like, oh yeah, by the way, we can't afford you.
What does that look like from a company standpoint, you think, for the fact that all these cuts have happened? Now, I've always been the believer, Andrew, that perception's reality. And, business is business. Budgets, cuts. We talked about they were taking money off of pyro effects. They're taking anything they could out to save money during the pandemic. Now it seemed like, during the quarter, they were actually making money rather than losing it during the whole COVID situation. Now the fans are coming back into the building, though. But, what kind of perception does that give now for the fact that, Vince went out publicly and said he doesn't view AEW as competition? You expect Vince to say that because what else is he going to say? What does that say to the fact that WWE, who's this gigantic company that usually would, before AEW, the early stages of AEW started, were paying people not to go there, and now they're just releasing everybody knowing they're eventually going to head over to AEW?
Well, they got a guy that really understands finance. They got rid of Michelle Wilson and George Barrios, and they brought in Nick Khan, which is a major sports player, major corporate guy. He has tremendous ties in media. So they brought him in, and it's a very different approach, and it's more of a real sports franchise approach to things. And that's the first time that this company's ever had that. They've really never been successful at bringing in people from the sports world. I think Michelle Wolf, is that the one? Lisa Wolf? God, I forgot. Lisa Wolf from the 90s. In the 90s, they brought her in. She came from the NFL, and it just didn't work because you don't really understand wrestling. But WWE's not a wrestling company anymore. You don't have to understand wrestling to understand WWE. You have to understand media. And by WWE's own statements, they are not a wrestling company. They're a media company, and they're not competing with AEW. They're competing with everything. They're competing with the NFL. They're competing with nightly news. By the way, same shtick I tell my staff, okay? Same exact thing. We don't compete with other clubs. We compete with everybody. So this is an approach that we have seen in the corporate world happening where you're not boxing yourself in to compete with your competitors. You're actually trying to grab people from all different types of businesses. If I like steak, I'm going to compete with a steakhouse, even though I'm not a steakhouse. We're trying to build as much of an audience, and WWE's in the same boat right now with building their brand outside of professional wrestling. That's why you look at Monday Night Raw, and it looks like a variety show, and it doesn't look like a pro wrestling show.
I mean, look how they're touting Reggie and his TikTok numbers, right? I saw that and I was like, oh, you know what? It's not a wrestling company. It's entertainment. It's what you do social media wise. Before, I didn't even realize the YouTube views, how people are like, hey, listen, this person's drawing this many YouTube views. That's how we're going to go about pushing this person.
Yeah, but where are those views coming from? That's a big question, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Are those views coming from people with buying power? Or are those views coming from emerging markets, which most of them are? I'm like the hottest act in India right now.
As you should be.
I mean, I'm joking about that, but I can't. My India download numbers have blown up. Mm-hmm. Wrestling is tremendous. WWE is so successful in India. Their ratings are like 5, 6, 7, 8 million. Per Raw.
Yeah, it's a global company though, so I get where those YouTube views could be coming from. Not in the United States, could be coming.
But they are in a very different. They're a global media powerhouse at this point, and their goal is to expand beyond a match. They want these guys to become, brand ambassadors. They want these guys to be doing, the Tonight Show and hosting SNL, and they want them hosting the VMAs. I mean, that's really the plan here, where these guys all become super, celebrities. They're now in the celebrity side. And by the way, we saw that with the Diva show, right?
Yeah.
Total Divas was exactly that. The Miz's show is exactly that. They are well beyond wrestling. Yeah, they're wrestlers, but they do everything else.
Yep. Listen, talked about so I want to talk about the wrestling aspect of it. And of course, you guys we're having a field day with the CM Punk news, whether he's going to show up on Rampage or not, whether they're going to wait till All Out. It's great. We're all fantasy booking on our shows, and eventually it's going to happen, right? And I laugh at the report to say that, oh, he's looking good in the ring. Well, of course, yes. Is he going to be rusty? Of course, right? But it's like riding a bicycle for these dudes, It's like eventually, he's not going to forget how to wrestle. But the question is to you is, how do you feel is the better way to present CM Punk when he eventually does show up in AEW? Do you think showing up on a Rampage show on a Friday night at 10 o'clock is the right idea? Or do you think showing up at All Out is the way to go?
I would have him come out of a box, because I've heard that in wrestling, if you debut out of a box, you're automatically over. I think
the gobbledygooker.
Yeah, the gobbledygooker. Terry Funk. Funk showed up out of a box, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I since they booked that building, which I found that really like last minute booking that building, he has to show up there, and I think this is to bring eyeballs to their new show. This is also not to disrupt the program that they have already planned for the next couple of weeks, because remember, it's leading up to a pay-per-view. And somebody in WWE said this to me, and I thought it was so interesting that they were like so in tune with this. He goes, what happened with WrestleMania and the WCW acquisition, right? They tried to do too much, and they kind of derailed the program that they had planned after WrestleMania because of this. You don't want to really do that. You want to take your time and debut them, but you know that you have an opportunity here in Chicago with a pay-per-view to have them wrestle on, and in Chicago with this Rampage show that you're trying to get over. So I think logistically it's the best way to do it. I don't know. I hope that this second show does well for them on Tuesday, at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. Not really the best demo to be attracting, because if you're young, you're probably out, or you're doing something else on a Friday. So I don't know if this is the best way, but I kind of lean towards yes.
Andrew, you know that I spoke to the man himself, because for some reason, I have a fascination with the United Center. I love it's huge. It's
called Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan, right? And
Yeah.
I always wondered why WWE never went there after SummerSlam, right? With Taker versus Taker. Guess who I spoke to and asked him, why don't you guys ever do United Center? I talked to Bruce Pritchard.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I asked him a while back ago, and I said, why don't you do United Center, dude? And he may have had a couple beers in him, but he goes to me and he tells me, you think the MSG union costs are a lot.
Yeah.
United Center is even worse.
Yeah, no, he's right.
Yeah, so that's why that's something that I was like, oh, I always wanted to know. And I asked him, and that's what he told me. So, but I've always had a fascination with the United Center, and for AEW to do that, that's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, I know that it's a very expensive building. Any of those flagship buildings are expensive, but you also have options in Chicago. You got the Rosemont Horizon, you got the Now building. What is Rosemont called now? It's
Allstate Arena.
Allstate Arena, yeah. So you have other options that are cheaper. In New York, it's a little bit different. You got the Coliseum, you got Barclays, and you got the Garden. That's why nobody's running the Garden anymore, because it's so expensive.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about expensive, the fact that SummerSlam is going to be in where the Las Vegas Raiders play, it's going to be amazing. I thought they were going to wait for WrestleMania for that to happen, but it makes sense they're going to do SummerSlam here. You're more involved than we are right now in terms of we're listening to rumors just as much as you are getting them. Are there still worries that the fact that they're going to quote unquote cancel SummerSlam? Are there talks about possibly being just for vaccinated people going in there?
No, there was never any doubt that show would be canceled. Listen, you can't say never, right? But internally, I could tell you that they really weren't anticipating this getting canceled. They had a lot of guidance from the state and from Clark County of, what the plan is going forward. They weren't going to pull the rug under them. And also, there's a whole bunch of events scheduled for Vegas. And Vegas is just coming back. What?
Like the pool party. I was more worried about
the pool party.
I was worried about
the Sapphire pool party. Yeah.
I was more worried about the pool party being canceled than SummerSlam, where the pool party, where the ratio of beautiful people to ugly people is about 12-1. So let me add that as well too, though. So I was more worried about the pool party there, Andrew. Sorry about that. I don't want to be selfish.
No, the pool party's staying on. But it's amazing how these rumors start, though, right? And they're like, oh yeah, it's going to be canceled. And then there are people posting like, my source confirmed that SummerSlam is going to the Performance Center. And they're tagging me in this. And I go, where? First of all, that's a lie. You don't have a source that said that because nobody has said that. I'm on the phone, like, as this guy is arguing with me and telling me that, actually, you know what happened? Somebody was arguing me. I was flying back and I was online, my flight back. And somebody's arguing. He's like, my source told me that it's canceled and they're moving. I go, I'm texting one of the head coordinators for this event for summer at the stadium in Vegas because I have connections through the club over there, right? And I'm like, the guy's telling me you're a fool. And I wrote this to him. I said, I'm talking to this guy right now. And he said, you're a fool for posting that. And the guy blocked me, obviously, after that.
Of course.
You caught him. You caught him in his lie.
I just find it bizarre. Like, it's such, people love doomsday porn. They love doom and gloom. And listen, this is the society that we're in right now, right? The last 17, 18 months has been this. Since 2016, it's been this online where everything is, it's the end of the world. It's the end of the world. People really like that. It's the same vibe as hate watching WWE. The people that really hate WWE and they continue watching it and watching it and watching it. Why are you doing this to yourself? I say this every day. The day I don't want to do my job and the day I don't want to watch wrestling, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to torture myself. I could do something else. 8:00. I'm having the best time doing the show with you guys. But if I didn't enjoy this anymore, guess what? I wouldn't do it. Why would I?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think that's just society's way. They'd rather be miserable. And, it's just weird. Because now, like you said, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan because you have all these things going on.
I can't think of any other. I mean, I said this and I got so much shit online. I said this feels like 97 to me. Right? And of course, a 20-year-old that didn't live in 97 is telling me that I'm an idiot, that also comes in. But
they're the same ones that want a war because
they want the war.
They want exactly.
But you know what? I'm not doing this to plug it at all. And I did this on We're Live, Pal. But this book is a great example of learning what happened in 97. All the changes that started happening. This is a compilation of The Observer, and it's pretty much a yearbook of, beginning to end of everything that was going on. And, we're in this, and it was a very uncertain time. It was a lot of back and forth. A lot of people were coming and leaving, and it was just exciting. I'm not saying that the wrestling storylines are there, which some may argue they are, but I'm saying as far as excitement goes, tell me another era that we've had, a two major blockbuster companies competing with each other. You have a third property. You have Impact Wrestling. You have NWA. You have Ring of Honor. You have New Japan that's expanded into North America and everything else going on. There's never been a moment like this, that there's so much mainstream television wrestling happening.
You're right. And you're talking about that book you just were flipping through in terms of that, we lived through it. So we know it.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, obviously you can go through and read the book, but it doesn't do justice when you actually live through it. And I now I understand what people say when they say, back in my day, things were so much better. It's true because we relate to that specifically. And you're right. This day and age, and I've said countless times on this show with Jeff, that we're in a scenario now where you sit, the time slot for Rampage, 10 o'clock. That's not a good demo. But I think we're in the day and age right now where a lot of people, I don't think are waiting by their TVs, waiting to see SmackDown go on, waiting for Raw, waiting for this, because they can DVR or they can watch it back on replay. So
DVR plus 3, man. Doesn't really matter anymore. It's counted towards your ratings. So within the first 3 days you watch it, it counts. So it's a very interesting time, and even the back and forth, right? Even like all the negativity you see online, it's like we haven't evolved in 20 something years.
Nah,
This is
man.
the forum days again. We're on the forums. We're on the message boards. We're on the WrestleZone message board. Just with these crazy rumors. Ted DiBiase's the higher power. It's Jake Roberts. He's the higher. I mean, these are things that we lived through. And you know what? It was exciting. It really was. It was a fun time to enjoy wrestling. And I feel like we're getting there. I feel it again. I feel it. Other than, things are a little bit more negative now. But it was bad then, too.
Hey, like
Some more
Cody
people
and
online.
Hey, Cody and Cody the Bucks and Tony Khan built a company on a feeling. So it's September.
Yep.
September is going to be amazing. And the good thing about it is guys like us, we get to do shows like this and stuff like that because
And
of what's
talk about
happening.
it,
And
Yeah.
why would you be negative and hope one company fails and not? Because then all of us get to eat. All of us get the piece of that pie, right? But
Yeah, man,
yeah,
good
go ahead.
for everybody.
Yeah.
It's good for anybody. If it's a hot business, it's good for everybody.
Back to wrestling though, and as far as NXT goes, and I don't believe that it's going to go back looking like an FCW show where there's like 10 people in the audience, or it looks like OVW or anything like that. I think those kind of reports I don't believe that, because why would they make something like not aesthetically pleasing on USA? There's a lot of talk where the executives are kind of upset because they see names like Bronson Reed and the other people that got released there. Bobby Fish, I get, but what's your take? I think it's a lot of worriness for no reason as far as the aesthetic look of what NXT is going to look like. What do you think?
The aesthetic look has to change. It's going to change. I know people have always been unhappy with it since they're competing. They were competing with AEW, and AEW is in a major building with all this lights and everything, and these guys are in a dungeon wrestling, right? So it didn't really help them, but aesthetically, they are upgrading the aesthetics. Talent-wise, listen, you're 100% right. We're not going to go back to FCW. It's not going to be like that. It's nothing like that. They're not just going to go with big 7-foot guys, because the reality, those guys really don't exist that much.
Mhm.
However, I do feel, and some of the things that have been said to me is that they don't want to bring you on if they don't feel that you are a main event player. They're no longer going to do guys just to fill a spot, right? Because they have plenty of those. They want these guys, because for the longest time, like a guy like Zack Ryder or a guy like Brian Myers, he was in that preliminary exhibition match position where and instead of having a guy that you've never heard of in that spot, they want guys that they can market and make some money off of, because they got to pay these guys. So that was the big change in the beginning. Now with NXT, they're signing up all these people, but with zero hope for some of these guys. Like, they're never going to become a main player ever. And go ahead.
No, finish.
No, and I'm not taking a shot at anybody, right? But Leon Ruff, let's bring him up. Leon Ruff is not a main player on this roster, and he won't be. So why are we paying him? And I'm just saying what the philosophy is here. Why are we paying this guy? Why do we have him here taking a spot from someone that we feel that we can develop? And the guys that they want to develop are football players, collegiate wrestlers, athletes, and they do really well with those people. They do tremendous with them. You just need a couple of those, and because they already have the competitive nature, they already have the discipline, the work ethic. So why would you bring in an independent wrestler that's been wrestling on the indies for 7-8 years, hasn't really made a name for themselves, doesn't really have the good body, and doesn't have the work ethic that some of these other, professional athletes do? I'm not saying that that's a right way to look at this, but that's the way that they're seeing it right now.
Trendsetter, we were talking before. We saw that picture of Triple H when he was like giving a presentation. He had this vision for NXT. He had that global expansion. Remember, we heard Mexico, Japan.
Oh, that's over, by the way. That's all on pause.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Where did it go wrong for Triple H? Where did the blinders? Where did his vision go wrong?
Going 2 hours. That was the beginning, right? Because you took a product that was very very sheltered in and very much protected, and now you gave them this opportunity out of left field. Hey, not only are we putting you on TV, we're going to give you 2 hours, and it's going to be live, and it's going to be competing against another product. It was a doomed situation because they weren't put in a position to win. If that was the goal, they would have put them on Tuesdays from the first night out and kept those guys like, Karrion Kross, obviously, Keith Lee, who else? Matt Riddle. These guys would have stayed there instead of coming up. Also, guys like Gargano and Ciampa would have stayed there instead of trying to bring them up. So I think the competitiveness kind of hurt them. And also, at the end of the day, there's still a developmental territory. And a lot of the talent, that revolving talent that they had when a Finn Balor would go up, a Kevin Owens would show up. When a Kevin Owens would leave, a Nakamura would show up. They don't have access to these guys anymore because they're signed to other places.
Mm-hmm.
So now what do? You don't have access to your top talent that you could get cheap. Those guys are going somewhere else. They're able to make money on the independents easily. The Young Bucks are a great example of it. They became very rich on their own on the independents. So now what do? You have to go back to square one and build your own talent. And that's a very difficult thing because if you think about it, the only time that they were able to do this in the highest of calibers was OVW and was that graduating class of 02.
Ooh, what a class.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Right? But think about it. Give me a homegrown NXT guy, right? Homegrown that became a mega star.
Yeah, and that's what they hope for Gable Steveson if he signs whatever. So
he would be an instant game changer in that company.
Yeah. So, but that's another reason why, this is the new philosophy that's going to change for NXT, and they're talking about now, accessing whether your market value, whether you're going to be a bona fide star. We don't want somebody in their 30s or somebody who's been in the independent scene for 18 years and trying to catch a break theoretically to be part of the company. That's why we've seen all these cuts happen. But then it begs the question, you just said it yourself too. Besides that class, I honestly really can't remember the last homegrown NXT. I mean, maybe Roman Reigns. Maybe Roman.
Roman's not NXT though. He came through FCW. It was a different developmental. Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, same exact story. Big E really didn't spend too much time there. Xavier Woods also didn't spend too much time in NXT.
So was the first NXT champion. So I guess that's some.
He was, but
yes, but
I don't even count that either because he was part of FCW and he wasn't a homegrown guy. Tyler, but he was a Ring of Honor champion.
And that's why I found it so funny with these releases, because here's our established stars. Here are established stars who've gotten themselves over, granted on a smaller scale. Why it's so difficult of bringing them up now and putting them in that global sense where now everybody knows who they are? Because if they're going back to now a true developmental, you have Sean Merriman, for example, coming in to be a wrestler. But again, it is a very long learning curve to learn from. So I don't know where they're going to get that developmental of talent that's going to be the next, once Roman Reigns decides to hang up his boots and his golden glove, who's the next person out there? You got Bobby Lashley. He's kind of
40. He's over 40
something years old. Yeah, he's like
they're
made out of rocks. They're from a rock planet.
They're relying too much, and Cena was right. They're relying way too much. They're eventually going to rely way too much on the older talent. That's kind of what happened with WCW and why they kind of stalled too, because they wouldn't lift up their younger talent. But we're here with Andrew Zarian, and Andrew, you got to go, and so I want to throw you some rapid fire questions here, real quick. Here,
let's do it.
Okay.
Boxers or briefs?
Unless there's
none right now.
Oh my God!
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good with this tan, dude.
I know you are a lot of color.
I am the color. I am all of it. It's all different shades of brown happening right now with me. I'm peeling. Half my body's peeled off at this point.
Barring some injury, or hopefully, fingers crossed, is Roman Reigns is he the wrestler of the year in your eyes?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Clearly, right?
Clearly. I mean, listen, you could talk about work rate and match 5-star, 6-star. It doesn't matter. There's nobody with the presence that Roman has right now. I mean, this guy, by the way, you want to talk about confidence?
Oh yeah,
figuring it out. He figured it out. It's fascinating to see when that clicks, how immediately Rock was a great example of this too. That Rock gimmick in the Nation, we all loved it, but he wasn't comfortable still. Corporate Rock, still not comfortable, but all of a sudden, it just clicked, and that was it for him. Once it clicked, it clicked. Same thing with Steve Austin. So I think Roman Reigns right now is, I don't think they've been able to. He's surpassed John Cena as far as building a talent that is so refined. I think he's surpassed John Cena. I think people really are into this Roman heel character, and they like booing him, which is always a positive. But I can't think of another person other than, Kenny Omega had a decent year, but nowhere near where Roman is right now.
I think when he said that missionary position, that comment that just came organic, I think that's when you realize he's going to be a great babyface because he can do the comebacks too, which will probably position him later on. Brock Lesnar, do you see him coming back by the end of the year?
That's a great question. I see him coming back for WrestleMania. I don't know. I know that they're in communication always, right? Brock is very smart and he knows what he's doing. Listen, last I heard, they presented something with him he was financially okay with, and then the creative didn't work for him. So I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is, it's a creative issue that they really don't have a good plan for him. So I don't know if it was for him to come in and lose to Bobby Lashley. That match has to happen. And I know everybody wants it to happen. Him and Lashley has to happen. That might be a WrestleMania match, and I'd be into that.
Who has a better chance of breaking Ric Flair's record, Charlotte or John Cena?
I think Charlotte's gonna far surpass the 17-time world championship, 16-time world championship. That's their goal unless she leaves, or she can.
Does Ric Flair actually get back into the ring again? And really, we love Ric Flair. He's a national treasure for us fans. Does he get back in the ring, and would you watch it?
I would definitely watch it. I don't want him to get back in the ring. I don't believe he's going to have a wrestling match, but I do think maybe he'll want to take a bump. I think he'll do spots, and I know he always wants to do more, and they don't let him. By the way, for all the reasons they shouldn't let him do anything. The guy nearly died.
3 years ago.
So long ago, 3 years ago. Yeah, so they have to be cautious, and I get that. But Flair's out of his goddamn mind. He's looking good. He's working out, but he always looks good. He always works out and gets into shape for a while. I think he probably feels the best that he's felt in a long time, and maybe he has a little bit of an itch. But I anticipate he's going to be in AEW as soon as he can.
And then the final rapid one is what are you looking forward to the next month? If there's one thing that you have to look forward to and you're keeping an eye on, what is it?
All Out, 100%.
Yeah.
Super excited for All Out. Yeah, I'm excited for that trip to Chicago. I'm excited to be in that building. I think that pay-per-view is going to be a big landmark moment for that company. That, and of course, you know what else? Obviously, here in Queens, the Arthur Ashe show. You guys are going to that, right?
We'll be at All Out, and we'll see about the Arthur Ashe. But yeah,
we gotta do like a big meetup and hang out and do stuff.
We do. We do.
We got to do it.
But again, listen, Andrew, thank you so much for your time. It is the Matmen Podcast. Follow him on Instagram and Twitter at Matmen Podcast. Got the big pool party August 20th, Sapphires, Las Vegas by the pool. Hopefully we'll be there. Hey, any help that you need, we're there for you, buddy.
I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to hold you up for that.
Yeah, definitely. No, we'll be there. We'll support anything you need from us. Let us know. And man, continued success, brother. You got all these podcasts going on. You got the show, the merch, which we saw is available. We'll put that up there too and post it. Some great stuff there. So, man, again, congratulations and looking forward to seeing you in Vegas.
Thanks, guys. And by the way, anytime you want me on, I'll come on. This was a ball. This was the most fun I've had in a very long time doing a podcast.
Oh, nice. So chill, nice. Oh, and what's the best? What do you recommend as far as a drink in Vegas? What should we get at Sapphires while we watch you guys do your thing?
You caught me unprepared because I don't really deal with them. You know what? I'll probably be drinking vodka sodas.
Okay.
That entire afternoon. You know what? It's Vegas. Let's do champagne. Let's open up a couple DP bottles. Fuck it.
Podcast, Madman Podcast. It's like Hulkamania and the Madness combined.
By the way, I'm gonna be bougie. I'm gonna be bougie Zarian the entire trip.
Okay, I'll be the trendsetter. He's the scoundrel.
Yeah.
I love
it.
We'll keep in touch before that. But again, thanks a lot for coming on, man.
Absolutely,
and again,
man.
Awesome times, dude. We'll see you in
dude.
And thanks goes out to Andrew Zarian of the Matmen Podcast. Man, he's a busy dude, but thankful for giving us a few moments. Got a lot in there, man, and I cannot wait for the pool party. Andrew Zarian, Matmen hosting at Sapphires Poolside, and it's going to be RVD and Katie Forbes are going to be hosting the event. Hopefully, we can do a couple things, but we will be there supporting Andrew Zarian and, of course, Rich, too. So, man, looking forward to that. Everyone's going to be there, guys. You be there, and definitely we're going to show our support for the guys. But again, though, a lot of people are talking about CM Punk. What is he going to do? Has he hinted at an AEW appearance. Well, I'm telling you what, Trendsetter, he is doing a great job trolling, because Heels is premiering August 15th, I believe, and they're doing press for it. And a podcast called Sunday Night's Main Event was able to get CM Punk on, talk about Heels. But of course, you're CM Punk. You know you're going to get questioned about an AEW appearance. And let's just see in his response if you felt that he gave away anything. Of course, this is the interview with Sunday Night's Main Event, and that's courtesy of at SNME Radio.
Center on August the 20th. I'm just curious if you might be visiting the United Center that night.
When was that? Let me look at my calendar.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say it was? The 20th?
20th, yeah.
Here?
I think I actually might be doing a screening. This isn't confirmed yet, so I probably shouldn't blast this out everywhere, but we're talking about doing a screening of episode 3 of Heels at an AMC in Chicago, and that's one of the dates that has been proposed. So hope to see everybody there.
Very nice.
I mean, that was cool, calm, and collected. Did you gain any knowledge from that little clip it there, snippet, clip it, that CM Punk is going to be at the United Center?
Why would I? He is a master of manipulation to the 10th degree, basically. CM Punk never gives anything away. He plays everything close to the vest. And even if he did get asked that question directly, and I appreciate the host that asked that question directly. You had to. There's no way you could have CM Punk on your show and not mention that in some way. Comes out immediately and says it. But the nonchalant way that CM Punk goes about talking about it, of course, what would you expect? You wouldn't expect anything less. He's a believer as much as you and I and a lot of people that listen to our show and listen to all the other podcasts out there that are really popular, is that, those kind of things, the element of surprise has kind of been lost in the world of pro wrestling or sports entertainment. So it's nice to still keep guessing, to not really have figured it out, because ultimately, you know how the trick is done, you know how the business side works, but you know what? The way it's put together, the way it actually showcases itself in front of you, that's the exciting part. So, of course, I wouldn't expect anything less from Bill Brooks. CM Punk.
And of course, you catch that podcast called Sunday Night's Main Event. Follow him on Twitter at SMNE Radio. Definitely give it a listen too. They made the media rounds for Heels, which is coming up this Sunday. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But I got to tell you something, man. This week watching Dynamite, I will say this. I think the A this time, which is the first time I'm saying this in a long time for AEW, I think the A stood for average. I think this show was okay. It was watchable, but really didn't, I guess, do anything for me as far as that excitement that a lot of the shows beforehand have done.
Mm-hmm.
But I get it, man. Not everything's going to be a home run. You're going to hit doubles and triples and singles sometimes. Plus, the preparation for All Out, the preparation for your Rampage, you kind of felt maybe the product was going to take a hit. Not that much, but still, I would say just an average Dynamite this week.
I mean, that's fair to say. I think the last couple ones have been kind of average too, but the crowd definitely changes your perception of it when you're watching them, how excited they are. I mean, what really carried it, from my opinion, was basically, the 5 labors of Jericho in terms of him.
Labors?
Yes, that's what I said, and I said it correctly.
Oh, don't be testy there, Trendsetter.
No.
I'm an old man. I'm almost 40.
Yeah, well, clean out those ears, man. That's all I got to say is clean out those stinking ears.
I thought it took layers.
But yeah, that was basically the focal point of what the whole show was about. Did it deliver? I mean, honestly, there are a couple of botches there too, but at the end of the day, it's what you wanted to see was Jericho overcoming Wardlow, and now he will be facing MJF with his own stipulations. I just find it ridiculous. You have to go through all this much to face MJF, but again, that guy literally could piss off anybody. He could literally piss off the Pope and have the Pope try to punch him, basically. That's how much heat that guy has. And it'll be interesting because, we've talked about it before in terms of the importance of the perception of MJF and where he's going. And Jericho doing all this stuff could be necessarily a swan song, but I kind of feel it's more of Jericho really doing everything he can now to solidify Well, we already know that MJF is the future of AEW if he stays with AEW. I mean, who knows? There might be another company that might bid for his talents. But man, the way it's going right now,
You're
that's the way it's
going there.
going.
You're going there right now.
I'm
this
going
week.
there, man. Why wouldn't I? Because we've been talking about it going one direction. It is possible it can go the other direction too. And then that's when we'll find out how they handle it, because all this built up for MJF with Chris Jericho, I see it going that way. But we'll find out. But again, an okay show. I wouldn't scream about it. I will say this though: Tony Schiavone and JR. I'll give credit to JR. He's really now been showing some enthusiasm. He's been showing little glimpses of what he was back in WWE. I know people say he's a Hall of Famer. He doesn't need to prove anything, but sometimes you lose a little zip on your fastball, and he's getting it back a little bit.
So I think the critiques have kind of gone in his head, and now he's trying to be more aware, I guess, of him and making sure he doesn't really that he brings the energy and that he doesn't really mess up, right?
I think honestly that's been the fair criticism for everyone, though. It's like he's been lacking energy. Granted, he calls it WWE Dynamite and he makes all these mistakes, but you and I, we've been watching the shows, and it seemed like in the past he was just kind of like lackadaisical and like he was kind of falling asleep while he was talking. Now, if he opens the show, that's what I felt like. He was falling asleep while he was talking. And then all of a sudden in the shows, he's showing energy like, welcome to Dynamite. And like, it's somewhat of a resemblance of what he had when he had Jared the King Lawler alongside of him. And now Tony Schiavone really seems to get into it too. Because before Tony was trying to play a color guy, and he really wasn't like that. Now he's kind of taking the reins. And Excalibur's been solid. He's been solid, all right.
Well, I mean, eventually down the road, I think the plan is to move Excalibur off of Dynamite. So that I can focus on Rampage. But it's going to be interesting, though, as we head into Rampage, that four-man booth again, Mark Henry, Chris Jericho, Excalibur, and Taz, is going to be interesting to see the dynamic of that. But you could tell, though, I would say, too, that as the weeks progress, there's going to be more of an eye and ears towards JR, because now it's going to be more of him, depending on him. I'm not sure when they're going to plan to move Excalibur off, but if that is the plan, JR is definitely going to have to pick up the pace here, most definitely, though. But he is a Hall of Famer, and you can't take it away from him. And, everyone makes mistakes, I guess, right? Everyone makes mistakes. And,
yeah, we're living proof of that.
Oh,
especially
definitely.
me.
I'm not perfect, dude. I'm not perfect. But, again, I'm not color commentating.
You like to pretend you are.
I'm not color commentating a show where over 1 million people watch every Wednesday night. So we'll see. Yeah. Of course, Heels premieres on Starz. Stephen Amell and Alexander Ludwig star in that show. Also, CM Punk stars in it as well. It is August 15th, 9 p.m. Really, you're not
about CM Punk. I'm talking about CM Punk.
Okay. I like anything Stephen Amell does.
I like the trailer. I like the previews for it. It was really cool.
Yeah, so that is going to be premiering on the weekend. So there's a lot of wrestling, guys. And of course, next week is SummerSlam. So we'll give you your NXT TakeOver preview show as well as SummerSlam. And hey, maybe give you another few goodies. But again, the main thing is we'll be there in Las Vegas for SummerSlam weekend. We'll be poolside August the 20th at Sapphires by the pool, getting sun, and definitely hoping to see a lot of beautiful women there, Trendsetter. Looking forward to that. Oh yeah, and of course, supporting Matt Men podcast. I want to thank Andrew Zarian for joining us on this week's show. A lot of information there, guys. Again, listen, we do the show for you guys, right? I know I'm cutting into Trendsetter's clothes here.
Always do that, man.
Follow us.
Always do that.
Follow us on all our social media at iSpot Podcast. Follow us on all podcast platforms. You can see Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, HSP Network. Follow us on our YouTube, youtube.com/highspot podcast. Zanji's got a new record. Make sure you download that. He really contributes to the show. Love Bizanji. Make sure you download his new album, Trendsetter. You packed it? Are you packing soon, or are you gonna be a last minute packer?
I'm a last minute packer, as I always am. I pack better last minute. I'm always good when the pressure's on me. And guys, you've been listening to another episode of the HSP podcast. Guys, thank you so much for being a part of it. We can't wait to what the future brings. We know Las Vegas, we're bound for it now. Yet again, looking forward to it. For the scoundrel, Jeff Martin, I am the Trendsetter, Bryan Burga. We are the Jersey Red Crew. Thank you so much. And remember, we do this for one reason only. What happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas, because we do this for one reason. We do this for you, the crew.
Can I get the window seat, Trendsetter?